Hello, I am Dr. Marilyn Ward with No Excuses, and today I want to talk about or continue talking about fear and for me, how it can debilitate us. So I want to share with you, and I've got some notes because I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. So maybe none of you have felt this way, but I have in all aspects of my life. I have been fearful of starting to race. I remember the first time when I signed up for my first half Ironman, but I was like, well, my sister did it, I can do it. But I definitely went into that fearful. So, but I want to talk about um, how some people, how to overcome that. And obviously I did because I ended up doing two half marathons. But I want to talk about how what happens to us during that process and then how we can actually overcome it. So, how it can debilitate us. So, paralysis by analysis. So, fear often leads to us, we overthink and we analyze every possible outcome, which can prevent us from taking any action at all. So, with that, it's almost like so if you're a negative person, just in general, not being rude or disrespectful, but if you happen to take things, I had somebody mention to me today, if you're a person that sees the glass half full, or if you're a person that sees the glass half empty, you are going to overanalyze it so much that you scare yourself out of it. So paralysis by analysis, that overanalyzation of like, I don't think I can do this to the point that you don't do it. Or you're that type of person that thinks of everything that could go wrong in that process. So if you're already negative, we're going to try to work over that so you can think of the positive. Think of what if I did do it? Oh my gosh, I get a big, beautiful medal and bragging rights and whatever. So that is one way. So kind of when you're listening to this, kind of think like, am I that kind of person? Am I more of the other kind of person? Or see which one of these key points. So, avoidance. Fear can make us avoid situations that are essential for our growth. This avoidance can lead to missed opportunities and stagnation. Think about that in terms of your job. So, let's say there's a job promotion and there's a couple people in the running and you are so fearful, you avoid it. You're like, I'm not going to do that. So you just stay in that same position for year after year because you're comfortable there, right? So I left a job, love the job, still great friends with the people at that job, but I knew I wanted growth. And there was no growth opportunity for me there at that time. So I took a step out of faith on faith and was like, well, I'm going to go search for a job that will give me that growth. Very scary. Scary to leave the one job, scary to go to a brand new job with a higher position and more responsibility. So don't let your avoidance keep you from your success. So sometimes, and I'm going to use this phrase more than once, but if you're going to fail, fail forward. So at least going in and practicing that interview, you might not have got it. You might, but it's going to be that practice for you that's going to help you make that next interview. Self-doubt. Fear feeds us self-doubt, making us question our abilities and definitely our worthiness, and it can cripple our confidence and hinder our progress. So same thing, back to that job interview. If you are self-doubting, if you walk in there like, man, I know I'm not going to get it, there's other people that have better qualifications or more knowledge. But if you walk in there and like confident, like I am the best person for this job, you should hire me because of my qualifications, my work experience, my enthusiastic personality, whatever. But go in there with that confidence. Otherwise, you're just going to stay again in that same position. So think about this is why I always say your affirmations and goals are important every year because you need to build yourself up. If you're having self doubt of your abilities and your worthiness, that's where those affirmations are going to come in. And you're going to be like, I am capable, I am worthy of this job. So all of these things like kind of come together to help us overcome fear. Stress and anxiety. That constant fear generates stress and anxiety, which can have serious implications on our health and mental and physical health, which is so true because we are like stressing out about it because, like, oh my gosh, I really need this job. I really need this promotion because of X, Y, and Z. And then you've become so stressed about it. And then you're like, if you don't, you're going to then feel bad about yourself and not worthy. So it's kind of like that terrible vicious cycle that we get onto. Well, this is going to cause this, and then this is going to cause this. And then, I'm back that, that wheel of um, stress and self-doubt and fear, all of these like components all into that terrible little wheel. So definitely see which one you are. Are you the person that's the paralysis by analysis? Are you more of the avoidance, self-doubt, stress and anxiety? Maybe you're a little bit of all of them. I probably could hit, excuse me, and relate to every single one of those at some point in time in my life. So, on a good note, how do we change our mindset to overcome that fear? How do we become uh, all of those things, break those bad habits and overcome? Because, that fear, it's the fear of the unknown, right? It's like, I don't know what's lurking on the other side. So I'll just stay right over here in my little comfortable shell where nobody can touch me. Well, you can't grow. So that's kind of that definition of insanity where you're expecting doing the same thing but expecting different results. You're not going to get it if you don't change your mindset and overcome this fear. So, we're going to have some tips about how to overcome, changing your mindset to overcome that fear. So, one, acknowledge and accept. So, the first step is to acknowledge and accept that fear is a natural emotion and everyone experiences it, right? I remember back, I think it was my 35th birthday, went skydiving, super fun. My sister and I, some friends, but I can remember that was, I got it on video, so I can actually see my scared emotion in that. And so again, it's fear, and I had to overcome that fear to be able to jump out of that plane. But we all acknowledged it, but I was able to visually see my fear in that video because we were up in the plane, and all of a sudden the plane kind of leveled off and you're already hooked to your person. You're kind of sitting there, and all of a sudden the plane did one of these, and I mean, fear was all over my face. And even jumping out, you could see it, and I'm like, oh, that was probably the one of the time, because most of the time you're fearful and you feel it, right? We feel the emotion inside, but other people see the fear, but you don't see it because you're yourself, right? You're looking forward. So I was able to visually see that fear and feel that every 100%. So I was able to acknowledge it and I accepted it. And through the coaching of our tandem partners, or the people that we're, hooked to, they were great with providing me the self-efficacy that I needed, that inner cheerleader that I needed to be able to jump out of that plane. Now, I'm just relating these topics to things that have happened to me. So I hope as you're watching or listening, you're doing the same for yourself. Maybe you've got a notepad and you're writing it down, your experience of when you acknowledged and accepted. Okay. So this is kind of like um, a working lecture here. I want you to sit here and think about how these things are affecting you or how you're relating and and maybe these things happened and maybe you also have seen your own fear. So please take notes, write it down, come back and watch this again. Number two, reframe thoughts. Excuse me, I'm getting a little tickle in my throat. So shift your focus from negative outcomes to positive possibilities. Instead of thinking, what if I fail? Try to say, what if I succeed? This is huge for me. This is again with those affirmations. So if you fail, fail forward. So we always, and this is again, if you're a pessimistic person, this is for you. So many of us, we don't mean to do it, but we do it and we speak those negative words out loud. Now, I'm a firm believer in the power of the tongue and speaking stuff into existence. So I'm going to try to tell you, zip it up. Like, don't say it. Don't say those words. Don't say, what if I fail? Because I'm always like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a grueling, triathlon, but at the end, as long as I finish, I don't care. I also am one of those people, I want to enjoy the journey along the way. Sometimes take that pressure off of you, like, I gotta be first, I gotta be number one. No, we just need to finish. Once you've finished so many times, then start working on that you want to be number one. But let's take baby steps here. So, first, let's get rid of those negative thoughts and always speak with positivity. So, like, what if I succeed? Because I say this in my business. What if I write this book? I've got a book I'm working on, a couple of them, and nobody reads it. Well, you know what? Who cares? I wrote it. I did it. And that's all that matters. It's kind of like that same thought of when you're giving to the homeless person. In our hearts, we did what was right. Now, what they go and do with that money afterwards, I know I'm kind of getting off here, off track a little bit, but what they do with that money afterwards, whatever. But you did what you did in your heart that you thought was right. So in your thinking, you need to think of what if I do succeed? I don't care if anybody reads the book, but I did it. So that's part of succeeding. You wrote, finished, published a book. Now, if it sits there on the shelf, that doesn't matter. So take that pressure of always having to have it all just how you're supposed to have it, and let it be. Oops, got a little phone call coming in. So reframe your thoughts. Totally got off subject there. My apologies. I'm human. So positive speaking. And here we go again. Embrace failure. Number 3, understand that failure is not the opposite of success, but a part of it. Each failure brings you one step to your goal. Embracing that failure. Understand that failure is not the opposite of success, but a part of it. So each failure brings you one step closer to your goal. So, my example of the book. Um, just because it doesn't sell doesn't mean that I was a failure. It just means, maybe nobody was that interested in the book. So embrace those small steps along the way. So, like I say, if you fail, fail forward. Let's say your weight loss goal. Maybe you wanted to lose 10 pounds in a month and you only got to 6. Well, that's 6 more, than you had at the beginning of the month. 4 pounds shy, you're still you in your head are thinking you failed, but you still failed forward. So, and every step is a learning experience. Okay, well, this is what I did this month. What do I need to do next month? Or where can I tweak my workout or my eating habits to work for next month? Okay, so that's how you're going to look at those, embracing your failures. The next one of my favorites, visualization. Regularly visualize yourself succeeding. This helps build confidence and reduces fear. I can remember way back when I was a sales director for Mary Kay, and I was receiving my first free car. I won two over or earned their use of two over my 6 years of being in Mary Kay. And people were like, what did it feel like? What was it like going across stage in Dallas? And it was like friggin' huge. There were so many people there. And I was like, well, I visualized it so many times in my head. I was like, it was just like my dreams. So you have to see yourself. And that's where vision boards come in, because they help take what you want, your thoughts, your affirmations, your goals. Then you find these pictures and you put it on the board. I went back, so we just did this year, some friends of mine, and I um, went back and I brought out all my old boards And I went back and I was like, here's one of me with there's a little stick man. I think my daughter drew it. And I was getting, I had PhD written there and I was speaking in front of a large audience. And that's what I do now. I speak in front of audiences, doing lectures and workshops, motivational speaking. And but I've already visualized it. Like I know, like I go back and I see like the dream house and the nice car and and I can also see how my what I was interested had changed along the way. I was used to be very into the materialistic, still am, I still do love my clothes and I had like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all these, and traveling. And now it's like check, check. I did those things. So you want to visualize what it is that you want because it's going to give you the confidence to reduce that fear, right? Because you've already said, hey, I'm going to do this. I do this still to this day. Like when I know I have a long run, especially on a Saturday or Sunday, I do a long run or a long bike. Now, when I say long, I mean long run over 10 miles, long bike, usually 30 or 40, used to be 60. One time, a couple times I did 100. But anyway, so, but I have to build myself up for that. I have to visualize, okay, we're running this long run on Saturday. And I'll start talking that into my head, and visualizing it on Monday, what I'm going to do that weekend, because it takes me that long to coax myself into it, to visualize it, to say it like, this is what we're going to do. But that helps build that confidence in me that I can. So instead of waking up Saturday morning like, oh my gosh, I got to run 10 miles today. No, I've already been mentally prepared that I'm going to conquer those miles that day. Self compassion. So we have to learn to be kind to ourselves. Excuse me. Be kind to ourselves. Recognize your efforts and celebrate the small victories. So, again, coming back, when I was talking about goals, and I had talked about goals on another post, but you've got your big goals, like your yearly, then you can break them down quarterly. Maybe you want to skip quarterly and you just go to monthly, weekly, and daily. And it's those daily activities, those little things we do every day, that's really going to help you get to that big overall picture, right? So your little daily things like I ate right today. I walked my, 2 miles today. Those are those small victories that you can celebrate because they are going to help you hit that weekly goal of the 1 to 2 pounds lost, the monthly goal of those 10 pounds lost, to that yearly goal, maybe it's 50 pounds for that whole year, right? So be kind to yourself when you've hit those victories, pat yourself on the back. But at the same time, all right, when you celebrate these victories and you have, like on my goal sheet, I have my clients fill out, there's a reward. It's like, what do you want to reward yourself with? Your rewards should propel you forward, not set you back. So, for instance, if you hit this goal at the end of the week or the end of the month, let's say you're like, you want to reward yourself with maybe a new piece of workout clothing, maybe a new exercise band, maybe a new yoga mat. What you don't want to do is reward yourself with a giant brownie sundae because that's going to set you back. So your reward should propel you forward. Also, when we say celebrate the small victories, don't stay in a celebratory mode for too long or even stay there. You celebrate it. Yay, I did it. Pat on the back. Keep moving. Don't get in that habit of, oh, I'm not going to celebrate. And then all of a sudden, you go back into a contemplation stage. That's talking about the 5 stages of change. We'll talk about that in another video. But so be kind to yourself, recognize it because you can't get from A to Z without doing A, right? You can't just jump. You got A, B, C. You get it. Mindfulness. This chair is squeaky. Mindfulness. So, sorry. Oops, that was number 6. Number 5. Self-compassion. No, sorry. Get it together, Marilyn. Get it together. We are on number 6. Mindfulness. So practice mindfulness. losing my thing here. Bear with me. Do, do, do. Practice mindfulness and meditation to stay present and reduce anxiety. So, again, it kind of goes back a little bit with that visualization. You want to be mindful of what's going on. So, mindfulness and meditation go a lot in hand in visualization because there are meditation videos that talk about visualization where you're visualizing, and then there's the meditation videos where you're being mindful and being mindful of what my body's doing. Squeeze here, think this. So practice that to stay present and reduce anxiety. So if you get nervous and scared, sit back, think, meditate on what is it that I want? How am I going to get there? How am I going to overcome the fear in that? And you're thinking about, and so you can relax and be like, and it's okay. It's okay to be fearful. So you've got to tell yourself that sometimes. I use that phrase a lot. It's okay. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous, to be upset, to be anxious. So, totally fine um, with being okay with our fearfulness, but be mindful of it, know it, and then meditate on it to stay in the present and reduce anxiety. And we can't, right? We can't control what happened last week, and the future is not for you today. You need to focus. That's it. That's the future you. That's the past you. Today is right now is you in the present. Be in the present. And then take action. So start small, gradually expose yourself to the things you fear. Each step forward diminishes the power of fear. So every time um, you do something, or just you think about it, and you can even, like, this is great too, write it down. Sometimes when you write it down and you read it out loud, you're like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So um gradually, you're not going to wake up tomorrow, and I'll just use triathlons for an example. I didn't just wake up one day and decide that I was going to do an Ironman, half Ironman, put that out there. I worked my way up to it. I ran a lot. I started out, my first race was a 5K and then a 10K. Then I went right to a half, did a few of those, went right to a full. It was great, loved it. Then realized like running a lot of fulls was what my sister and I used to do. We'd meet up all over different states and run together. And I can remember like, man, this is really hard on your knees. Joined a triathlon club back in Georgia, and I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. It was like, at first I started biking. I met this group and I was like, let me start biking first. So I started biking, right? And then I was like, okay, that's cool. So join this club. And then they're like, oh, we're going to go swim in this pond. I'm like, yeah, I swim, but like not competitively. So I remember the first small triathlon that I did was a sprint, and it was intense. It made me very, very nervous. I think I was the second to the last person coming out of the water. But you know what? I didn't care because there's only a minute amount of people compared, and when you're talking to people of the world that even do triathlons and that even do the Ironmans, right? So I'm like, all right, you're a part of an elite group that's doing things, and I'm not bragging by any means because I'm the slowest person out there, but I was doing something that I never thought I could do. I, but if I knew I wanted to try it, but I started small. Right. So that's kind of what this one talks about is starting small, gradually expose to the things you fear. And each time, so now when I did that first sprint triathlon, I was like, okay, I can do another. So then you do a sprint and then you do, I can't think of what the name of the one, there's like another name. And then there's the Olympic, which is the half of a half. Then you do a half and then you do a full. Now, I haven't been crazy enough to do a full, and I can't say that I'm not a little fearful of it, but at least I know that I've built these blocks that are going to help me get there, the stepping stones that I can use because I know now, you kind of know what the outcome is. You know what that trail is going to be like. You know that, your swim is going to be intense and you jump on that bike, recuperate, and then you hit that run and you just survive. So you build that up. So maybe you're talking about college. Maybe it's like, maybe PhD is in your long goal, but you got to get through that associates and then the bachelor's and the master's. And so maybe it's that. Maybe it's your job. Maybe your growth is in your job. Maybe you started out as, the janitor and then you worked your way up into the kitchen and then now you're managing that and now you want to go further, and whatever the case, but you just don't jump in right off the bat into a flow. And I've met people who have been like, oh, I think we were at the race and somebody said, oh no, this is the first time I've ever done one. And I'm thinking to my head, like, this is the first time you've ever done an Ironman, or this is the first time you've even done a triathlon. Some people got out in that water and they only practiced in a swimming pool. They never practiced open water swim. And let me tell you, huge difference, huge difference. So practice in your environment. So when you're fearful of something, your fear, your tactic at tackling it, like this last one is talking about, you've got to do it for, practice within that scope. Overcoming your fear of swimming isn't going to overcome your fear of, a job promotion. So now, doesn't mean that some of the same tactics might work, like, the compassion, the meditation, but when you practice overcoming something, you practice makes perfect, right? Practice makes you better. It's got, like, let's just say baseball, for example. You don't practice golf to get better at baseball. I hope that makes sense. Like, so whatever it is that you're trying to overcome, whatever it is, when you're taking action, the taking action part has to be within whatever it is that you're doing. Okay. Still using some of the key points here, but you will get better at it when you're actually doing the one thing that you're trying to overcome. I hope I'm getting that across clearly. If not, please comment and let me know. Let's see, one more. So just to be, um, and kind and wrap it all up. So fear is a natural part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to control us. By changing our mindset, we can transform fear into a driving force that propels us towards our dreams. And remember, courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite of it. Ooh, I love that. I'm going to say that again out loud. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite of it. Magical, right? So use these tips that we talked about. Watch the video over and over again if you're trying to gather it out. I can try to compile, put my notes into there somehow. But I know the dogs are. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, like, share. Because if you liked it, somebody else might like it too. Have a great day.